Amazing, amazing night. Who got a chance to see the moon on the way in? Hello? That moon was incredible. It was just such a reminder of the awesome and abundant life that we have. A reminder of the awesome and abundant life that we are. If it's your first time with us tonight on Wednesday night, welcome. It is a joy to have you here at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living. We are indeed a loving community that embraces the science of mind teaching. And what we're doing this year is we've been reading this book that Jan read out of today. And we've just been following the readings every day, just reading a little bit, and we're almost done reading that whole Science of Mind book, which is amazing. Because for me, as I've been reading it, and as I've been taking it piece by piece, and trying to dissect it, and understand it, and discern from it what is the truth of my life, and what is the truth of life in itself, it's amazing how many different ways Ernest Holmes and the folks who canonized the book, The Science of Mind, how many different ways he gets to just kind of say, by the way, there's one power, one presence, one life. That life is God. That life is love. That life is peace. That life is whatever it is that we call it. And by the way, that life is my life right now. That life is your life right now. That life is all life right now. It is just expressing in so many different forms and fashion. And so there's no exception that today's reading that Jan read a part of and a portion of, that it reminds us again of the infinite truth. The infinite truth that we, each of us, individually, is the unique and perfect and divine way that life is expressing on this planet. And though we might think differently or look different than each other or one another, or though we may have some similarities and some differences, we are still the one. We are still part of the one. We are the way the one shows up and expresses on this planet. Therefore, it's interesting because I know that we still struggle with this idea of separation, this idea that somehow I'm here in this personage, in this body, in this flesh suit, kind of like a Halloween costume, and God or life or abundance or peace or joy is somewhere out there. That somehow through our weekly endeavors, our weekly tasks, our weekly practices, and probably our weekly struggles, that we're in the depths and in the grips of this idea that somehow we're separate from the life that God is. That somehow we're separate from our abundance. That somehow we're separate from our peace. That somehow we're separate from the love that we want. When, in fact, if we continue to study, if we continue to practice, if we continue to really devote and dedicate some time and energy into knowing the truth, then we know that right where we are is the love, the joy, the peace, the abundance that we seek, the peace of mind even. I was listening to the radio. I got a new car, and it comes with 6 months of Sirius radio. So, of course, I get to kind of like go through a gazillion stations. I don't know, a gazillion stations is kind of like going to a restaurant and they have like 6 or 7 pages of a menu. Like, why so much? Like, it just kind of makes it a little more challenging for me to pick what I want because I have so much to go through and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I digress here. But I'm listening to the radio and I'm listening to this idea that somehow we are I was listening to a preacher, and he was just simply talking about how sometimes we don't pray boldly. That somehow we settle for our mediocrity. And I thought to myself, he needs to be a science of mind minister because, he's really talking our language in a sense. But how many times are we in positions where we settle for less? We settle for a piece of man. He's married, but he loves me. Or she's married, but she loves me. Or we settle for a part-time love. Or we settle for something less than what is ours to have. When we ask for something, when we desire something, are we settling for less, or are we actually going for the whole enchilada? So, for instance, this happens at the holidays or birthdays all the time. I'll go, hey, what do you want for the holidays? I want to get you a gift. What do you want? Well, I don't want a tie. Did I ask you what you didn't want? No, I asked you, what do you want? What is it that would make your socks roll up and down? What is it that would bring you joy? What do you want? And so many times it feels and it seems like folks are so protective of actually putting out there what they really want, their real hopes, their real desires, their real joys. Because they are afraid that they may not get it. And if they put out this big thing that they want, if we put out this big idea that we want, something that we want to achieve, something that we want to be, something that we want to experience, a place that we might want to go, if I put it out there and I don't get it, I might look like a fool. I might look silly. I might, be like wishing, and it doesn't happen. There's a story of a young girl who actually talks to her minister, and she says, I have this big test going on, and will you pray with me because I want to get a C. I want to pass. And he asked her, he said, well, why a C? Well, C's a passing grade, she says, and, this class is really hard, so I've only ever gotten a C. So the pastor, the minister was kind of like, well, if we're going to pray, then why don't you just pray for an A? You see what I mean? If you're going to pray, if you're going to put it out there, then go big or go home kind of thing. It's kind of like, where is our faith? Where is our recognition and our knowing that our life is part of, it is the individualized expression of the whole, of the perfection, of the joy, of the peace, that we are the individualized unit of it. That means kind of like a hologram. It is whole and complete, that wholeness, that complete power and presence and life is living in, through, and as me. It's living in, through, and as you. So why do we keep asking for a C when we can be asking for an A? And so she went home after they prayed for an A. And when she went home, she studied, as she would to get a C. But this time, she studied, kind of keeping in mind that she had asked for an A. And a few weeks later, she returned and was just overjoyed because there she had her test paper in hand with an A. Why do we keep selling ourselves short? It's not like we're asking some power and presence outside of us to grant us something. That's not what we teach here. That's not what we believe here. What we believe here is that in the beginning, whatever beginning, if we believe in time and space, but as it is written, there is God. There is this life energetic, whatever we call it. There is this force, energy field And it created everything out of itself, not out of itself and something else, because then in the beginning there was this and that. And all we've ever learned and all we've ever known is that in the beginning there was this. There was God. There was this energetic field. Form, as we heard just a few moments ago, is the expression of the energetic field. It is the visible and tangible expression of this life essence. So, we are this life essence, and in form, this is the way this life essence expresses. Therefore, that which is true of the life essence of God, of love, of joy, of peace, of whatever it is that we call this life essence, this energy field, whatever is true of this energy field is true about us. So we're not necessarily asking the energy field as if it is outside of us. It is us. It has created us out of itself. We're not asking this energy field to do or be or give us or grant us anything. We're simply recognizing through our prayer, through our meditation, through our word, that we are individualized expressions of the one. Therefore, that which is true of that is true of me. It's true of you. So I recognize that this is my truth, and I align my thoughts and my actions and my activity with this truth so that I can live fully the truth of who I already am. If I think I'm a C, well then, I'm going to be a C. But if I think I'm an A, then I'm going to live as an A. If I think and if I remember my truth, that I am the way intelligence shows up, then no wonder we get to communicate and be with one another, because intelligence recognizes intelligence. That's why it's so funny that am I going to say this? Yeah, I am. That's why it's interesting when people do name calling of one another. And you think you're hurting somebody, when really it's kind of like when the kids say, if you smelt it, you dealt it. But if I'm going to call you a name, or if I see a flaw in you, it's because I think that it lives in me. Because if it didn't live in me, I could not see it in you. So if I'm thinking less of myself, and if I'm seeing myself as damaged goods, or as flawed, or as less than, then of course I'm going to easily recognize that in each of you, and I'm going to be the one taking the inventory here. You're this and you're that, and I'm going to call you this name and that name and the other name, because I'm not recognizing the truth of who I am. Individualized, not individual. I am not separate from the whole. I am the way the whole expresses in physical form. You are the way life expresses in physical form. You are the perfect and divine way that God is expressing in human form. Therefore, the perfection that God is, you are. The abundance that God is, you are. The peace that God is, you are. The joy that God is, you are. The radiance that God is, you are. The clarity that God is, you are. The wisdom that God is, you are. The power that God is, you are. Because you cannot separate yourself from that itself, from the thing itself. You are the way it is expressing on this planet. It is an impossibility. I love it that in the reading, it talked about the wave. If the wave could talk, surfers would be like, yo, that's a gnarly wave. And the wave would probably say, it is not I that do the work, it is the ocean in me. right? It may sound like separation. It may sound like it's like there's a slight nuance of separation, but it is simply saying when you see the wave, you see the ocean. When you see the ocean, you see the wave. The ocean is a product, the wave is a product of the ocean. And all of the qualities, the water, everything that is in that wave is the ocean. But yet, the minute I say, oh, and by the way, when I see you, I see God, I see the perfect way that life energy is expressing on this planet, we'd be like, ooh, I don't know. You talking about me? Not me. Maybe Gandhi. Maybe the Buddha. Maybe you're talking about somebody else, but not me. Are you kidding? But when you see the wave, you see the ocean. It's one and the same. So what is necessary? What is necessary in your life to be the locksmith, if you will? You know? When a locksmith is either getting that combination or listening or, you know, there's these, and I don't know much about locks, but what I do know is that at some point there's a little click, because the click is actually, it kind of like drops in. Just to drop in. Boom. And now it opens. Where's your drop in? Where's that place within you as we're trying to turn and hear the click, the drop? When it just drops in, it's in place. Where's that for you? What does it take? Oh, and by the way, are you even turning the dial? Because some of us, you know, like, yeah, we want it to open up for us. We want the heavens to open up. We want to feel the presence of the Spirit. We want to know our oneness. We want to live in this joy and this bliss that we hear the great avatars talk about. But are we even willing to participate a little bit in what it takes to live from that place? Are we even turning the dial? Are we trying prayer and meditation? Are we sitting in the stillness and in the silence? Are we reading inspirational and spiritual writings? Are we contemplating the great teachings in all faiths, in all areas of life? Are we enjoying the beautiful moon and pausing to just, wow, to be in awe of that big white ball that's just kind of hanging in the sky, and just even being in that moment of awe, kind of going, how does it do that? How does it do that? I want to be the moon. Like, I just kind of want to like hang, like, you know? You know? Do we even take the time to revel in nature? Because that's a spiritual practice as well. That moment where we're just kind of going, yes, I am one with that. That is made out of the same stuff that I'm made out of. That moon is the way, that life energetic, that field of energy, that life, that God, that moon is the way God is expressing as a moon. Like, it takes that kind of curiosity. It takes that kind of energy. It takes that kind of dedication to begin to really live a life of freedom. Ernest Holmes talks about it. It's in the back of our bulletin. That we believe that we can have a life free from all discord. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for a life of freedom. I'm here to have a spiritual practice that actually helps me to live freely, that helps to eliminate my doubts, my fears, my anxieties, these ideas that somehow have been implanted into our brains, into my brain, about being less than or not enough, or not loved or lovable or not cared about, or that someday, and I don't know what day on the calendar that is, someday, someday I'll have it. Someday I will arrive. Someday it will happen for me. And if you're anything like me, or if you have thoughts very similar to those thoughts, what I can tell you and share with you is that a spiritual practice helps to eliminate those thoughts. It's kind of like doing spiritual house cleaning or mental housekeeping and just kind of sweeping that stuff right. We don't know where it came from. Just sweep that stuff right on out. Do some spiritual housekeeping, if you will. Our reading, though, is really helping us to anchor in this truth. We are individualized expressions of the Almighty, of the One. That's better than being born of royalty. It's better than being sons and daughters of a king. To recognize that I'm not the offspring. I'm the way the thing itself expresses. Hello, bam. It's just like, I'm not going to inherit anything. I am it. I'm the it. You're the it. You are the way life is expressing. And because life, capital L, meaning God, meaning that infinite intelligence, because you are the individualized expression and the way it shows up from the invisible to the visible, that which is true of this power and presence is true for and about you in human form. And of course, it doesn't mean that in a moment I'm going to just levitate right off. Because I am the expression in human form, therefore I live in the human realm, bound by the laws of humanity, of gravity, of being on this planet. And yet, it does not minimize the truth of who I am. And our mistake, if you will, our mistaken thinking has been that because we are in human form, that we could not be this power and this presence. And what I'm saying is that we are this power and presence in human form, but we forget and we give more power to the human aspect that we are versus the spiritual aspect of what we are. And we are spirit having this physical form. Therefore, navigating on planet, having our way on planet Earth. But do not be confused. Do not be mistaken. Do not be misled. Open your eyes so that you may see. Open your ears that you might hear the truth of who you are. You are the individualized expression of the Almighty. Therefore, that which is true of God is true of you. Period. That's the truth of who we are. And to the degree in which we focus on this and accept this, to the degree in which we nurture and take into our minds and do spiritual housekeeping and clear away any messages, any ideas, any thoughts, any forms of fashion that we are less than that greatness, to the degree in which we accept that this is our truth, is to that degree that we really, 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 really get to live our genuine life. So it is incumbent upon us as we begin to close out the end of 2014, and enter into 2015, that we begin to really look at how we have utilized this year reading our Science of Mind textbook, absorbing it, taking it in. It's not too late, if you haven't begun a spiritual practice, to begin one today. That we might anchor in these last 2 months, that we anchor in a practice and a way of being that then catapults us into 2015, into the life of our desire. Why are you asking for a C when you have everything necessary for an A? Do not sell yourself short. We're individualized, not individual. We're not just a lone wolf out there. We're not an island. We are part of all of it. And all of it is a part of who we are. We are one with life itself. So let's take some time now and just go into the silence, into the stillness, and anchor in this truth.